Hello and welcome. With Friday's gameplay showcase for Hogwarts Legacy, we were introduced to a ton of new content for the game as it enters its last couple months of development before release. This video is going to be a general overview of the most important facts and information from the gameplay showcase, and I will make other videos later on breaking down each part of the showcase. The first thing I want to recognize is the high points of the gameplay showcase, the things that I feel like couldn't have been shown any better, and I'm really excited to see expanded in the full game. For me, this starts with the character creation options. It's got a beautiful model system, and also I really like the preset system where you can get a character close to what you're wanting to do and then make minor adjustments. For me, this kind of character creation system is almost perfect because you have a lot of options and a lot of variety and can do a lot, but you don't have so much as it's overwhelming. There's a bunch of diversity in a lot of the features, so a lot of different characters can be made to represent all kinds of different types of players, but it doesn't go into so much detail that you then feel overwhelmed by the amount of detail that you have to consider while creating a character. I do like that there's a bunch of different hair color options, even some fun ones that you can mess around with later on. The developers did tease there being like a barbershop at Hogsmeade where you can change some of the features but not all of them after creating your character, so that's also nice and pretty common within character customization for games like this. The second point I want to highlight as being strong within the showcase is the castle itself. We see so much detail and time and focus that was put into every little detail that you see within the castle. All of this invokes that feeling of the hundreds of years of history that Hogwarts has, and I'm really impressed with the grounds and the amount of variety in the design choices and just the expansiveness of all the locations and exploration options in Hogwarts. If you've watched some of my previous videos, you probably already know that this is one of the points that I have said over and over and over again needs to be done right, because people are going to want to explore every part of Hogwarts they can. And I'm in that boat. I think this is a very important aspect of the game, and I'm happy that this isn't one that they seem to have cut corners on or tried to rush into and get it done quickly. Now, the castle is also where I have my first concern, and I think this is something that will probably change within the next couple months before we see the game release. Much of the castle outside the couple common rooms we've already seen felt a little cold and just not fully developed, as if there's a bunch of teenagers living there and having lives outside of school and learning magic. With open world games like this one, you want it to be a world that feels alive, that feels like you're interacting with it and not just existing within the world. I will say one of the strong points to this was there's a lot of things to discover and a lot of collectibles within the game that we can already see from the showcase. I do want to point out that the one part that I really felt was alive within the castle in terms of interaction was Peeves. We see him a couple times within the gameplay showcase, and he's always causing mischief, and he really feels reminiscent of the Peeves we know from the books that sadly got cut out of the movies. So I am really happy to see that he has that hijinks and mayhem personality that he is known for and that fans have been wanting to see ever since he was cut out of the movies. In addition to this, we are going to get a ton of Easter eggs and information from the different collectibles around the world. From the field guide pages to the Merlin puzzles, we're going to have so much detail there that if you're a longtime Harry Potter fan, it's going to be like a bunch of Easter eggs and surprising things that you get to uncover that you already know and love. If you're not a longtime fan, or maybe this is your first adventure in the wizarding world, you're going to have the opportunity to learn all this amazing stuff that makes the wizarding world such a vast and beloved intellectual property. I think that one of the best things the game can do is find appeals to brand new fans and lifelong fans as well. That's where they're going to get the best out of the game. And now this wouldn't be a proper summary of the showcase if I didn't talk about combat and classes. As far as combat goes, this is one of the points that I was concerned about for the game since the first couple of trailers. With wands being at least the main weapon, if not the only weapon in the game, there is no room for melee combat, so that means a ranged combat system is going to have to be in-depth and work with a variety of spells. I wasn't sure how this was going to come off, but the developers explained to us that the 4 diamonds in the bottom right-hand side can be expanded to fit 4 more, in effect giving us 16 spells available to use at one time. And this is going to allow for a lot of variety for players who have different playstyles, whether it be stealth, aggressive, or defensive. It's also going to give you the opportunity to play around with different spell combinations to see what works best against what type of enemies. I really hope that there are certain spells that have weaknesses with certain types of enemies, so you really have to tinker with what spells you work with and get well-rounded with multiple combinations of spells and attacks. Before I move on to my next subject, I do want to point out that this empty bar above the healing potions bar is what I believe the ancient magic bar is going to be once our character discovers that they have access to this ancient unknown magic that we've been warned about. Our understanding of how classes were going to function in the game was also expanded on during this showcase by the developers. They explained that there are certain parts of classes that will be core to the narrative, so must be completed. But there will also be parts that players can choose to do to further expand their talents and abilities while playing the game. I actually like this approach to classes because in many ways it's kind of realistic. There's a bare minimum that one has to get through at school to be able to pass through what they need to be able to achieve. But then there's also those who always do more and further expand on their knowledge. So it's really up to the player whether they do the bare minimum or go above and beyond and further expand their talents and abilities. So for me, the class system actually seems like it's going to work out really well. The more player freedom in aspects of games like this, the happier I tend to be with the overall game. Now, with all this being said, I think the gameplay showcase overall was a really great success. The general consensus is that people are very satisfied with the results of the gameplay showcase, and what minor concerns there are, mine included in them, have a very good chance of changing by the end of development in the next couple months. The last couple months of game development sees a lot of last-minute changes and polishing and refining of the game to make it the best version of itself that it can be. So I have a lot of faith that Hogwarts Legacy is going to get this done, and in the end we are going to see a game that is enjoyable and like none that we have ever experienced before. If you want to see my videos further breaking down some of these generalized overviews in the future, don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe. Tell me what your favorite part of the showcase was, and again, thank you so much for supporting my channel.